Hello and welcome to a Puzzled Panda video. Here are 100 facts about Disney's wartime films, part 2. This is the second video, exploring Disney's films from the wartime era. I will link the first part in the description below. During World War II, Disney released package films, as most of its employees either went to war or were making films for the government. Let's explore the background of the next 3 films. The next 3 films were Fun and Fancy Free, Melody Time, and The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. These films were made because Walt Disney wanted to save up money so they could go back to making single narrative films. These films helped finance Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan. The first package film that I will talk about today is Fun and Fancy Free. This film was split into 2 stories. Jiminy Cricket was the host of the film and links the 2 stories together. This shows that Jiminy Cricket was already becoming an important character to the Disney brand. The first story was Bongo, which was based on Little Bear Bongo, written by Sinclair Lewis. Bongo tells a story of a circus bear who longs for freedom from captivity. He escapes the circus and eventually forms a romantic relationship with a female bear. Les Clark, one of Disney's 9 old men, was the animation supervisor for Bongo. The film was going to be a sequel to Dumbo, but this was changed. Originally, the characters were more realistic, but to save time and money, they redesigned the characters so they would be more cartoony. Bongo later aired as an individual episode on a 1955 episode of Walt Disney's anthology TV series. The second story was Mickey and the Beanstalk. In early 1940, during production on Fantasia, animator Bill Cottrell pitched the idea of a feature film based on Jack and the Beanstalk. It starred Mickey Mouse as Jack, with Donald and Goofy as supporting characters. When he pitched it to Walt Disney, Walt burst out laughing, with tears rolling down his cheeks with joy. Disney enjoyed the pitch so much they invited other employees to listen to it. It was going to be a standalone feature-length film, but they decided to turn it into a short and pair it with Bongo. In the movie, Mickey plays the role of Jack. Goofy and Donald are the 2 friends. They all live in poverty and share the little they have. Wolfgang Reitherman was the directing animator for this scene. This has become one of my favourite Disney memes, and I send it to my friends anytime I'm broke. We see a darker version of Donald than we would see now. Donald goes into a rage with an axe to kill their cow. Mickey trades their cow for beans. Donald throws the beans to the floor and they fall through a hole. The next morning, Mickey, Donald and Goofy climb the gigantic beanstalk and enter the giant kingdom. There they stumble across a harp locked in a small box. She explains that she was kidnapped by a wicked giant. A giant named Willie emerges from the shadows, grunting angrily, but then suddenly breaks into a happy song. John Lounsbury was the directing animator for the giant. In order to escape, Mickey must find the key and rescue his friends, and does so with the help of a singing golden harp. Les Clark animated the singing harp. This was a difficult task as only her upper body could move. Clark used elegant arm movements as she points to Mickey. The short later aired as an individual episode on Walt Disney's anthology TV series twice. Mickey and the Beanstalk was the last time Walt Disney voiced Mickey Mouse. He was too busy on other projects to continue voicing the famous character. Disney replaced himself with sound effects artist Jimmy McDonald. Walt Disney had provided the voice for Mickey Mouse since his debut in 1928. Jimmy McDonald would become the character's new voice starting in 1948. He would voice the character until 1977. Walt Disney did reprise the role for the introduction to the original 1955-59 run of the Mickey Mouse Club. The Giant returns for Mickey's Christmas Carol. He plays the part of the Ghost of Christmas Present. This came out in 1983, 36 years after the first appearance in Jack and the Beanstalk. The next package film was called Melody Time. This was released as Disney's 10th animated feature film. The film is made up of 7 segments set to popular music and folk music. In this film, Walt Disney let the animators be creative with their imaginations. Eric Larson was one of the few supervising animators on the film. Eric did significant work on Once Upon a Wintertime, a love story on ice with Mary Blair-inspired environment. One segment of the film was Pecos Bill. The lead character was animated by Ward Kimball and Milt Kahl. The two animators had different ideologies on animation. Milt Kahl was an excellent draftsman, and animating realistic movement and anatomy came easy to him. Ward Kimball, on the other hand, loved to experiment with crazy, broad ideas to entertain in his animation. Incredibly, Pecos Bill's works seamlessly, and it always looks like the same character. Disney later released a package film entitled Music Land, a 9-segment film which recycled sequences from both Make Mine Music and Melody Time. Melody Time was unusual in that, until 1998, it remained one of the only handful of Disney animated features that had not been released on VHS. Please tell me you guys remember what a VHS was, because they were cool. There are many references to Pecos Bill in the Frontierland area of Magic Kingdom. There is a sign of Bill outside the Tall Tale Inn and Cafe, as well as various images of him. The final package film was The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. This is Disney's 11th animated feature film. The film consists of 2 segments, the first of which is based on the 1908 children's novel The Wind in the Willows by Scottish author Kenneth Grahame. The second is based on the 1820 short story The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by American author Washington Irving. In 1938, shortly after the release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Walt Disney was pitched the idea of making a feature film of Wind in the Willows. Disney was sceptical, as he felt the film may be too corny, but he acquired the rights in April that year. Frank Thomas was given the task to animate the introduction to Mr. Toad. Here, Frank Thomas shows his strong sense for character and relationships, as we see Rat and Mole try to talk some sense into their friend. We see clearly the contrast between the characters. Rat is sensible and serious. Mole is attempting to be serious, and Mr. Toad is carefree and irresponsible. Frank Thomas decided to give Mr. Toad broad, theatrical gestures to show this. I think there's some really imaginative animation throughout this entire film. I love the scene when Mr. Toad sees a motorcar for the first time and imagines what it would be like to drive a motorcar. The Wind in the Willows has lived on in Disney pop culture. Mr. Toad received his own dark ride at Disneyland. A dark ride is an amusement ride that guides passengers through scenes. It was one of the original opening day attractions at Disneyland. It is one of the few rides from the opening day of Disneyland that is still running today. It was also an opening attraction at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. However, the ride closed in 1998 to be replaced with a dark ride on Winnie the Pooh. In the Winnie the Pooh dark ride, there are still tributes to Mr. Toad, including a painting of the character and a statue of the Toad in a pet cemetery outside the Haunted Mansion. Disneyland Paris has a restaurant named Toad Hall. The restaurant began operation on opening day in 1992. In Mickey's Christmas Carol, Toad makes a cameo appearance as Scrooge's former boss, Mr. Fezziwig. He is shown in Scrooge's past, where he is shown dressed up in a white wig and playing a violin whilst his guests are celebrating Christmas. Mr. Toad appears briefly in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, driving past the lead character Eddie Valiant in a firefighter hat. Toad makes appearances as a recurring guest at the House of Mouse. Sometimes he'll be seen driving wildly in his motorcar. He can also be seen in the opening, flying through the lobby from a motorcar crash. The second story in this film is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. This was based on the book by Washington Irving. Wooly Riverman animates a scene of Ichabod trying to impress Katrina. Wooly creates a hilarious animation of Ichabod's gangly legs kicking up out of nowhere. Ollie Johnston also got the chance to show off his comedic timing. The antagonist Brom Bones is jealous when Ichabod gets the attention of Katrina. As Ichabod exits, the top half of the double door hits Brom. The film is famous for its villain, the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman chases Ichabod through the dark woods. The chase ends with the horseman throwing his head, which turns out to be a jack-o'-lantern, at Ichabod. The Headless Horseman appears in House of Mouse as a recurring guest in the audience. The Headless Horseman is part of various Halloween festivities at Walt Disney World. He can be seen leading the Halloween-themed parade. A statue of the Horseman has also become a central feature of Disney California Adventure's Halloween festivities. Thank you for watching this video on Disney's wartime films. Please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, where I post my own animations. Come back next week for the start of a new Disney era. This was called the Silver Era. The first film in this era was Cinderella. I'm looking forward to sharing some animation facts with you.